go. So.
Hey everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of Wicked Unscripted, where we have unscripted conversations about some of the most popular reality shows on television. My name is Abigail Adams. I am your host for this podcast. Joining me today, as always, is the lovely Sarah Talks. We also have Allie here, and we have Nicolette, who is filling in for Sammy for our Survivor 48 draft. So let me take a breath, and we'll kind of get into what's going on today. So, as we do for every Survivor season, whether it's me and Sarah, Allie and Sammy joined us last season, and they are joining us again this season to do our 4-person draft. Draft order will be myself, then Sarah, Nicolette, who is filling in for Sammy, and then Allie. And as we did last season, for the final 2 picks, Allie and I will collaborate on one. Sarah and Nicolette, filling in for Sammy, will collaborate on another. Did I miss anything, guys?
Nope.
Cool. Awesome. So
got it. Let's do this.
But I have the first pick, so I will jump right in. I know in the group chat there was some discussion about if we all had the first pick, like the same. I doubt we do because I don't think mine's the same, but you guys can let me know.
You and I never have similar picks, so I'm not as worried.
This pick is definitely a bit of a personal one for me. I'm picking Eva for my first pick. Absolutely adored her.
Sorry, I'm panicking. Hold on 5 seconds.
You're good. So Eva's my first pick, very briefly, and what we're going to do here is just give very short talking points to make sure that we don't run over time, because sometimes we get a little chatty here. So if you have any very brief thoughts on my opinions, feel free, but then we will kind of roll things along. So she's the captain of a men's ice hockey team. First of all, I am a former sports reporter, so I fell in love. She's also the first openly autistic player. I am also neurodivergent, so just lots of little personal things that I personally like. She values loyalty and an ally. I think that's strong. And her superpower, she really talks about how her autism really impacts who she is as a person and how she could likely play the game, both as how it can be a superpower and a kryptonite. I just think that I love her charisma. I love who she is as a person. And I think this is more of a personal pick than like a strategic one. And that's really where I'm at.
No, I like Eva. I think she's a good pick. I had a maybe for her just because I couldn't get a whole lot of vibes, but the vibes I did get were positive. Like, she wasn't going to be one of my last picks. I wasn't going to be upset to get her. Also, she's on the Purple Tribe, which I'm feeling is going to be like the star this season. So it's a good first pick.
She was on my list. She was not number 1, but she was most certainly up there on my list. So sad, but it's okay.
I was just like, I didn't know where any of my picks came from, honestly. Like, I was sitting there being like, how do I order any of this? So I was curious to see how we played out. That is my first pick. We're going to move on to Sarah now for her first pick number 2. Who you got?
My first pick, and y'all know me, like I'm very competitive with these, and with this first pick, I felt like this was a chaotic pick because I feel like this person is either going to do very, very well or crash and burn. There's going to be no in between, okay? But I cannot stop thinking about this person. I don't know what it was. It was one of the very first interviews I saw, but yeah, I have to go with Cedric. As my first pick, and this is just a pure gut thing. I didn't know how popular he was going to be in the group, but yeah, there he is. I was so drawn to him. He seems very strategic. He seems like someone I could talk to for a very, very long time. I don't know if that's going to be a detriment to him. I don't know how that's going to, like, it could go one of 2 ways. It could be very, very good, or it could be very, very bad. There's going to be no in between, I think. But in my gut, I feel like I need to have Cedric on my team. And I'm very curious to see what everybody else's vibes were.
He was on my list. I was nervous that you were actually taking my number 1 pick when you were talking about going off of vibes. Okay. And I don't know how surgeons sometimes are hit or miss on Survivor, I feel, surgeons and lawyers. So I'm worried about him, but he was certainly on my list because I really like his energy that he brings. So
Yeah. I just hope he doesn't turn into a Keyshawn from last season because I was like all in on him. I was like, love the
not
vibe.
Keyshawn.
And then that blind side, what, week 3 or 4, gut wrenching.
It's
So
tough. It's tough.
totally get that. Nicolette,
Yeah.
anything?
No, I agree. I know on Sammy's list it was about mid on the picks. But I definitely agree with what you said, Sarah, about it's either going to go really well or it's going to go really bad. That's definitely the vibe that I get from him.
Great. Awesome. So we're off to Nicolette next for Sammy's pick. And so who does Sammy have first on the list and why?
So thankfully, Sammy is getting his number 1 pick. So super excited for him, which is Charity.
Great pick.
So he said that he has to stick with his Michigan girly. She's a tough, tatted baddie from the Mitten State. So that was
who was
his,
she?
that was his
Can we
thought
get
process.
her picture?
Oh, she's like
I'm forgetting because she was not on my list.
Yeah,
so
she was high up. So she was if I didn't get my next pick next, she would have been my number 3. So love that for Sammy. And this very much
remember
Guys,
flight
I'm
attendant. Flight
And
attendant
for
girl.
viewers, if you're the patience is a virtue here. For those who typically watch these, no, I'm normally working with 4 monitors and I'm working with 1, so I'm feeling very handicapped right now.
Yes, Sarah.
There we go.
I'm in Boston. So.
Yeah, she was the religious girl who like grew up super
Mhm.
strict and then one day was like, "Hey, I'm going to just go be a flight attendant."
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think so what I really liked, and you guys know me. I love somebody who's like, I'm going to be a villain even if they're not the greatest villain. And she was like, I mean, if I have to be the villain this season, I guess I will be. But I don't know. There was something about her, and it reminds me of when Sammy picked Rachel last season, where I sat there and I was like, damn, that's a really good pick. And
Yeah.
I think Sammy may have done it again. So, goddamn you, Sammy.
I had
Anybody
Charity
else?
as a yes. Yeah, I had Charity as a yes on my list. My notes were I was getting D vibes. As far as like my initial reaction to her was very similar to my initial reaction to D, but I could also see her being like this Genevieve, you know? She's getting a lot more airtime preseason than Genevieve did, but yeah, I like Charity. I think she definitely makes merge. I like her. I feel really good about her. So I think like this is a really good first pick for Sammy.
I think my thoughts on her are less game related, but more so just kind of like what Allie was talking about with her backstory. I think she's going to be someone that, as the Survivor community, is really going to enjoy like watching her journey and learning more about her backstory. That's like more my opinions on her rather than like if I think she's going to be a strong like game strategical player.
Yeah, love that. Do we have any other thoughts before we move on to Allie's first pick?
No.
Bueller? Okay, good. All right, Allie, who is your number 1 pick? Well, your first pick and why?
So I'm getting my number 1.
Yay!
I think Sarah must know who I'm taking.
I don't know. I don't know. Which is why
I'm getting my number 1, and I will just say I debated on whether or not I wanted to pick this person for number 1 because I knew you guys probably wouldn't go for this person, and I am probably giving up getting a really good strategical player, but I have to go. My first pick, you guys, is always vibes, okay? And you guys know I picked Teenie last season, and it panned out fairly well. And this is probably a horrible mistake. It's giving Rome, and I'm so sorry. I'm going with Star.
Oh, interesting. I'm going with Star. To hear more about that.
I don't know why. I think it's just because Star was the very first interview that I got. Star does have a decent potential arc, I feel, with the being semi-pro basketball player in the past, having a son that they are like super playing for, single parent, I'm assuming. And I I know that they are going to be such chaos. Like they might even first tribal, maybe they go. But I don't
I do
know.
not
There's
see
something
first
about the
boot for
vibe I
Star.
loved. So what?
I said I don't see Star as a first boot.
Mm-mm.
I love them. I don't know. I love them
Yeah.
so much. So much. So much. Like I couldn't get Star out of my head. And so I know that I'm probably, like I said, giving up a super strategic person on number 2 or whatever on my list. But my first 2 choices, I was like, I'm just going to get the people that I love because I suck at these drafts and I always lose them anyway. So at least I can root for people that I want to root for.
Yeah, Sammy didn't really have a lot of thoughts on Star. They were, honestly, though, they were kind of high up on his list for picks, but not a whole lot of thoughts. For me personally, again, I think just backstory in general, it's going to be an interesting person to watch and their personality and how other people kind of interact with their personality as well, since it is a stronger personality, but that's my take.
I'm so
I
sorry
just-
because I wasn't writing this down. So Sarah had Cedric. Abby, who did you pick?
I
Eva.
picked Eva.
And Sammy picked
Charity.
Charity.
Yep. So we are on to round 2 at this point. So everybody is going to get a second pick for themselves. Everybody's going to get 4 picks for themselves, and then their 5th pick will be the group pick. So round 2. Thank God y'all didn't take my homeboy because you had to know I was going to take him. I am going with Justin. This is another. I'm going vibes more than trying to overthink my strategy because I've overthought too much the last couple times when we've done drafts, and so I just tried to go with my gut, and I mean my gut tells me to go with my boy from Massachusetts. So nothing super crazy about him that stands out game wise. But sorry, grabbing my notes. Yale graduate, worked at he's the youngest person to be an aide for the Massachusetts State House. One of the things that I thought was great was that he values an ally who's kind of open to bouncing ideas off each other. So he doesn't want to just kind of like rule over an alliance. And he seems to be really, really like a really big people person. And that really does go well in this game. I cannot gauge how he will do in these physical challenges. I can't. He's either going to be kind of like what Sarah was saying with Cedric about like one way or another. That's kind of how I'm feeling here. He's either going to be super, super strong and people are going to be blown away, or he's just going to be one of those non-physical threats who's really going to be somebody who leans on their strategic game. But, you know, Mass boys tend to have some do decently on this show.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to pick him. I'm excited to see his journey. We're doing a watch party in Boston too. So, I mean, who knows who shows up? He probably won't, but wouldn't that be a dream if he does someday?
I love him too. And I don't know that it matters how he does in competitions. I think he has an amazing story arc to the point where I'm like, I mean, he's going far because like, I don't know if you've seen like some of the shots of him, like that they've shown of him walking in the brush, like carrying stuff. And he's like wearing like a pizza shirt. Like he's giving the old school, like I Heart Rob t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like he's giving some old school vibes. And I don't think it matters if he wins comps. I think he might have a good social game ahead of him. I had him on my list, but I put him very, very low because I didn't want to take him from you if you wanted him because I knew you were down for the Massachusetts guy. So
no, you took my mask person last time, right? Was it you?
Who did I take?
I can't remember.
Mass?
Somebody took a masked person from me, and I was like, darn it.
Was it 2 seasons
if it was a
ago
woman, it was
Jay?
probably Sammy. It was probably Sammy if it was a woman.
Well, I'll look it up while you guys share your thoughts. I know Allie and Sarah and Nicolette probably have some, and I'll look it up in the meantime.
Okay, so here's the thing with Justin. The first interview I saw of him was Mike Bloom's, and I put a no from that one. And then when I read his bio, that no was less of a hard no.
Yeah.
And then when I got there was another talking head, it moved the needle some more for me. So I'm kind of like I don't but the reason I say like my note, it was no other reason other than like a gut. Like, I don't know if it was his answers to Mike Bloom's questions that I just felt like maybe he was kind of flailing a little bit. And then he seemed a little bit more buttoned up for the others. So I really couldn't get a solid read on him other than I'm just completely unsure.
Understandable.
Seems very
And
nice.
just wanted to jump in. Apparently, I must have just been high or something because that was that didn't exist. So we're good. Anything from Nicolette, yourself, and also from Sammy?
Yeah, Justin was not on Sammy's list, so apparently he was not feeling Justin very much. For me personally, I think that I agree that I am not feeling confident about this being a strong physical player, but I think social and strategical, he's got the tools. At least that's what it seems like from the interviews. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see if he actually follows through on, some of that. So
Totally. 2 risky picks for me to start, and I will openly admit that. But, risk it for the biscuit. I watched Sammy do that last season, and I was like, damn it, I should have been more risky. So,
Yeah.
going.
No, I want to say that I do agree with Sarah because the first thing I saw of him, I was like, hard pass. But then the second thing I saw of him, I was like, actually, never mind. I changed my mind completely. He's like a solid pick.
Yeah, so my first thing, I saw him because I picked up on the Boston right away when he was in the promo. So that was the first thing where I was like, hell yes, let's go. I will agree, when I saw his first interviews, I was less enthused. I still really like, though. Yeah, we'll talk about.
Wait a second. We can't move past that.
Wait, wait. Gabe was not a bad pick. Whoa. Gabe was a good pick. Gabe went deep in that game.
I'm talking about Jelinski. You chose Jelinski,
totally, but yeah.
For those who are just listening, we have a comment from Lucas that said Abigail is risky, always picking Jelinski and Gabe 2 seasons in a row.
But why? I mean, Gabe, I said was admittedly risky, but I mean, panned out perfectly fine.
Maybe that's what it was. Is that it's a risk? Yeah, Gabe, you said was risky. Jelinski.
I don't know how I didn't know until today years old that you chose Jelinski.
I thought it was wildly obvious as well. So I don't know. All right, we spent a lot of time on this pick. Let's move on to Sarah's next pick. Who do you have for your number 2?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Lucas, you're throwing me off here. Okay. So my second pick, I'm gonna go with Sai. Sai? Is that how we're saying it? The nickname.
Huh. I must know more.
This is a pure vibes and energy pick. I think that anyone on this island will be able to talk to her for hours. I think that I was immediately drawn to her. She's very entertaining. I feel like she has not stars in the player, star energy.
Funny. That's going to be a caveat we probably see more than once this year.
Yeah. I feel like Sai, Justice Warrior, love the story. And it could be that she's a marketing girly like me. I just overall vibes, but also like I identified a lot with Sai in that, like, in her personality. Like, I felt like her interview was very similar to the way I would be answering questions. And I wanted more. I wanted more interviews. I wanted to hear her talk more. So I feel like if I'm feeling that initially, then that's got to be like good for her social game on the island. This is a vibes pick. I feel like she's going to be impossible not to love.
Yeah, one of the things
I see a strong bond.
So I really liked her superpower that she brought up, where it's like being lighthearted in awkward situations, because a lot of people were very like broad with, I think it was Mike Bloom who asked this question. And a lot of them had kind of like a lot of answers repeated among players. And I really like that hers was unique, but also really spoke to who she was. However, there are 2 things that I think so she was a little further down on my list, and there were two reasons that came out of the Mike Bloom interviews that made me just a little cautious about her.
I think I know what you're talking about.
One, she says that she considers herself too nosy for her own good.
Yes, that's precisely the reason she's not on my list at all.
Love her, but that was like I literally wrote red flag in parentheses and big stuff. And then her kryptonite
I wrote
is
it in capital letters on my paper.
I feel so bad. I think I'll root for her on the season, but as a draft pick, I was nervous.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is her kryptonite is her emotions and facial expressions. And I resonate with the facial expressions because those screw me up every single day.
To those points, I just want to combat them because I did see that. But the fact that she is self-aware of how nosy she is and that could be her detriment tells me that could be one of those like red herring kind of interview things that like we're like, but then it ends up never being a thing. Only because she is self-aware of it. And then the other part, I felt like, wait, what you said? I'm sorry. You said it was the nosy thing, and then what was the other red flag you had?
That she shows her emotions on her face all the time. Yeah,
so did Carolyn. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't disagree, but the thing is, like, it's about how your tribe, like, because it's all about who she's with. So I'm just curious to know how people will perceive her, because it's 50-50. Either it's going to go the way it went with Carolyn, and people are just going to be like, oh, that's just who she is. Doesn't matter to us in the game. Or it's going to be something where it's like, oh, we're going to read too into it.
That was the other reason that she got bumped up on my list, was because of her tribe dynamics too. If you look at the other people on the green tribe with her, I feel like she is at less risk. I don't know what it is, but I could see her jiving with more people on green than other people on green.
I just think green could potentially be a hot mess. So I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
Just because anybody on green could just be in trouble. That was the vibe that I got. But for green, I think she's still a strong pick for that green tribe. So I like that a lot. Anything else? Nada? All right. Let's move on to Sammy's second pick, which is coming from Nicolette. So let us know where we're going.
Yes, Sammy's second pick is Joe. And I'll be honest, you'll have to tell me what this talking point means, because I don't know what he's talking about. But he said he's giving smart himbo vibes. What's himbo mean?
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
For the pod. Yeah, I think we definitely need to pick a little bit of a different phrasing for that. Respect for Sammy. It is not your fault.
Sorry.
Moving on. I think he has an amazing story arc. Like I have him on my list because the dead sister, he's a firefighter. Firefighters, we love firefighters on Survivor.
Firefighters,
amazing story arc. Show. Great arc.
Mm-hmm.
And the firefighter thing, I knew, like, okay, he's a firefighter. I actually had him as a hard no.
I did too.
I had him as a hard no. I mean, I feel like it was the whole calling Gabler Diggler for me that kind of did me.
That's not what it did for me, but oh my god, I understand. Oh, that's funny.
I was like, Diggler, as in like a cousin to Diglett or Dig Trio. Is this a new Pokemon evolution? Who is this? I never seen a Diggler on Survivor. But yeah, his answers were just like, I think it was just a little triggering to me because I know so many Joes.
You know, here's the thing for me. Joe could be a Gabe. So we were just talking about Gabe, how I picked Gabe very early last year and how it was a very risky move really early. I kind of think that this could be that for Sammy's draft, because I say that because I read into a lot when it comes to the promo that they give us, not right before the season starts, the promo that we get at the end of the previous season. So what we saw during the 47 finale, Joe was the first voiceover that we got. And it was something, I cannot remember. I should have actually written it down and quoted it, but it was something like, I've been destined to do this game forever and I'm just getting here, or something like that. Like, it was like super dramatic. He had like two, like at least one, if not two more quotes in the package. So I sat there and I was like, ooh, it's a really good chance that he could go decently far, but
Yeah, I think he's
I'm
going
concerned
far.
about the personality of it all. I don't know.
No,
how that's gonna
he
go.
might be a villain. He might be somebody that we don't like. But the story
Q.
arc is giving
I liked Q.
he's lasting, you know? The story arc is giving he's lasting.
I think he could give Q in terms of seems really, really like
I don't know about
possible
Q.
early-
Who said Q?
I said Q. Me.
Oh,
Because
I don't know.
let me theorize
Yeah,
it first. So at the beginning,
me
Q
more.
was very much like especially when his tribe was failing, there was lots of talk about what like everybody was a liability, and he had a really big mouth that people did not necessarily like because he would kind of say things that would endanger people's games. And he had a very big boisterous personality, did not care whose games he put in danger as long as his was safe. I get a very similar vibe from Joe. And you know, as much as I was like a hard no on him, that could really work well. Who knows? Yeah. So I'm curious to see how Joe's going to work this season. That's going to be interesting. Any other thoughts on Joe before we move on?
Just real quick, I just think that almost similar to the Cedric pick, I think it's either a good or a bad. It's going to be dependent all on how other people perceive him and how they kind of take his personality, honestly.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's the hardest part of this whole drafting process is trying to gauge. Obviously, you feel about a player, but you have to also then try and gauge how everybody else is going to feel. Because even those first impressions that we get don't always pan out. And so it's just, that's the challenge with this. And I love it. I love seeing it play out. Okay, let's move on to Allie. You are our last pick in the second round. Who are you going to pick and why?
I had 3 people written down for number 2, and you guys didn't take any of them. So I'm struggling. Okay, I'm going to go with crap. Trying to think of who you guys might take next. Shoot. Okay,
if you want any comfort, all of mine are really soft at this point. Like, all of mine are kind of in the same range. So I don't know if you're gonna like drive me nuts with whoever you pick.
Okay, I'm just gonna take this personality pick. I'm going with Mitch. And you guys are not going to like that. Oh, you do like it? Okay, good.
I do like it. I do.
I don't know how much I can say about my reasoning why. I think you guys probably have a good idea, but he is the guy with the pretty significant speech impediment. He has a stutter. And I just don't know how. If I was on that island, I would not want to vote this guy out.
Mm-hmm.
I get that's why I'm picking him. And I just think with him being a PE teacher, I think that those are valid skills in communicating with others. So,
especially kids.
And especially for a guy that obviously is going to have a struggle with his verbal communication in general, he is going to be the guy that people are like, come on, like, I just feel like he's going to have a hard time, but I feel like he's such a nice guy that no one's going to want to vote him off of the island unless they have to. I feel like he's making it to merge, but that's just my personal opinions.
Yeah.
I could have picked my stronger player because I was like him and one other person. I was like, okay, am I going to pick somebody that I think could really, 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 truly win? Or am I going to go with this guy? And I just couldn't pass him up. So
I'm curious when that person comes up. You should definitely let us know when
I'll tell you when that person comes up. I will tell you.
And I don't know if you guys follow Mitch yet on TikTok, but he is pleasant. He is pleasant to watch, and I think that's part of why I think that this is a good pick because he was pretty high up in my next few picks.
Okay, I haven't seen him on TikTok. You'll have to send me his because I am going to
just
expeditiously find him.
I found him. He just popped up on my FYP, and I was like, "Hello, him and Charity actually."
Cedric popped up on mine.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even.
Cedric came on mine.
Yeah.
Love
Cedric
that.
has a pretty nice personality on TikTok, so I'm pretty jealous of Sarah's pick.
Well, and so does Charity. So everybody who has a TikTok has an enjoyable personality. Because Charity's TikTok is also really fun to watch. I've really enjoyed her TikToks. So
I have a TikTok, but I do not have an enjoyable personality.
I don't think any of us do on TikTok. I think we're all just mean. I'm kidding. Yeah. People don't like us as much as they like these people. I'm just kidding. All right. Who else wants to share some thoughts on Mitch?
Lucas has a question. I didn't see this, but it doesn't mean because I don't have any notes on Mitch.
Okay,
Is
I thought this.
I
saw a
don't
video
know.
about this.
I did not see
you
that.
did?
No.
Okay. Nicolette did.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
it did. So as long as somebody else, like, it's cool. I just didn't see it. But
I didn't know.
so I can get why
something to
that
watch
might
out
come
for.
off. I can understand why that's a little bit of a frustrating thing, but it could. I didn't see the whole comment, so I don't know what context is around it, like why he said he might. Because it might be wanting like meat shields in front of you, right? Like wanting a Joe who's like kind of big and boisterous, and you can be like, but I played the strategic game, because that is how I think he mentioned Gabler was one of his like people he looked up to and somebody he enjoyed because he liked the social game that Gabler played. And people can like or dislike that. I'm just saying that was his reasoning. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, there wasn't much context around it. I think it literally just said that he predicts there's going to be a male all three final three and that he's going to be one of the three. And that was really kind of it. It wasn't him in the video. It was someone else talking about one of the interviews he did. So that was literally all that they said in the video.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No worries. Cool. Any other thoughts on Mitch before we move to round 3?
No. Abigail, go. And I just realized I should have picked somebody that I didn't pick my last round. So now I'm really stressing.
So my next pick, and I'm just making sure I don't skip somebody I want. So I'm kind of torn between two people, but not quite. I think I'm leaning toward, and I'm going to go with Stephanie.
Okay.
So Stephanie is definitely, so I like her personality. I connect with it. I can see where people would connect with it on the island. There's something about it that kind of gives personable. I don't know. It's just I because it's hard to see them in action until we can really see them interacting with people. So that's just where I'm coming from. Little red flag.
Quirky.
What was that?
She's quirky.
Yes.
I love a quirky queen.
I'm a quirky queen. That's why I go always quirky queens. So one of the red flags that did pop up for me is she does admittedly have some alpha tendencies. I don't think that necessarily, and I use alpha, that's the word she used. I don't think that necessarily hurts a player as long as, like Sarah mentioned for Sai, as long as they're aware of their potential pitfalls. Like, I think that could work well for her. She also had one of my favorite answers for Mike Bloom's superpower question, because she said that hers is playing a balanced game and like listed all of the different ways that her game could be balanced in terms of strategy, challenge wins, blah, 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 what have you. And that there was just something about that I really kind of connected with. And that's why she wound up higher on my list. And the last thing I'll say is she values an ally who provides her with information, which is different than like people who say loyalty. Like she didn't straight up just say loyal. She was like, no, I want the information. And I think that's a key difference between what a lot of people said and what she said. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I had a yes for Stephanie. I love Stephanie. I loved her vibes. Stephanie's one of those like picks where I'm like, oh gosh, this is either going to go really bad or really, really good. There's going to be no in between for her. And I like that. I like that in a casting choice. I like that in, seeing that on the island. I like that going into the game, but overall, like her vibes, like I would rock with her. I really, really liked her. I caught myself like vibing with her to the point where, and this is probably my own like trauma with these shows, where I immediately got anxiety with like, oh God, she's going to let me down. She's going to do something that's going to make me regret liking her so much in preseason. And I think, honestly, I think that that's just like a white woman thing, like a fear.
It's like, what are you going to screw up?
Yeah. How are you going to make us look bad? We're already bad, bad enough. But yeah,
I got you.
I really, really liked her. So I do see her doing very well.
Anybody else? Allie?
I didn't like her. So I will say this: the first like sentence or two I heard out of her mouth vibes. Loved it. I was like, yes, yes, yes. This is my girly pop. And then it just progressively felt like it went downhill for me throughout her interviews. I'll just tell you the word I wrote next to her name. I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Nobody has chosen any of these, by the way, but I have 5 people and it's like bottom of my list. And she's at the top of the bottom. And right next to her name, I wrote control freak because she indicated essentially that she's, I think Abigail said that she used the word alpha, but I think she also talked about having control. So I wrote control freak. And I just, like Sarah said, it's a risky thing. And but also I chose Star. So like, I mean, I don't really.
I get that.
You know
And
what
I feel like there's another girl on this cast that's even more risky and chaotic than her. So,
ooh, I can't wait till we get to that person. Let us know.
I still vibed. I had the same like level of vibes with another girl that has not yet been picked as I did with Stephanie. So they were kind of like on the same level for me.
And
Nicolette,
I'll
let us know when you get to that person.
Oh yeah, please. And when we get to these people, let's shout them out because I loved getting these little like insights. And the last thing I'll say before we move into Sarah's pick is I genuinely agree with all of that. One of the reasons that I decided to kind of go against a piece of my gut is because I didn't go with Genevieve last year. Allie and I did not pick Genevieve. And that was a sincere regret. Like one of the biggest regrets I've had since we've started drafting on this podcast for any show. I looked at that and I was like, I have to learn from that screwed up draft pick and figure that out.
But in our defense, we felt like they were like 2 in the same. We were choosing between Rome and Genevieve. And at the moment, before we'd seen anything other than preseason stuff, you and I both were like, neither one of these people are
totally.
Well, we hardly got anything for Genevieve first, but like preseason, and then Rome. What we did get, we're like,
it was a stark contrast.
Nicolette, do you have any thoughts on Stephanie?
Yeah. I'm in agreement with Abigail that I really think that her answer about the information just goes a little bit deeper than what most people give in general on these preseason interviews. But I think that can be a pro or a con because it could be like a play too hard, too fast kind of situation because they are already in that strategical mindset, or it can end up panning out really well for her. So that's kind of my thoughts, but Sammy said that he's getting BB Lisa vibes from her, but unclear on which Lisa that is. I have a feeling it's from this past season, but I don't know.
We know it ain't Lisa Donahue, okay? I know he's not talking about Lisa Donahue.
I can see where he's coming from. I personally disagree, but I totally get where he is coming from with that, because she definitely gives the glitter queen kind of vibe to some degree.
Yep.
Cool. Does. Any other thoughts before we move on to Sarah?
No.
Cool. Let's go. Sarah, who you got?
I'm struggling because I do feel like a guy is going to win this season. It's just in my gut. But there's a girl that I really want, but I don't know why. Like, I know why. I know it was because of vibes. So I'm either going to go like for a vibe pick here, or I just feel like
what have you done before? Have you gone with enough vibe picks? Do you have good?
I've never won a draft, Abigail. I always do great. I'm making it to finale night. I'm always right there just for someone else to come in clutch with like an upset. And so I don't think that I can trust in what I've done previous. And now I don't even know that I've always gone with my gut. And my gut is telling, like, now overthinking it because I've yet to win a draft. I crushed the draft all season where everyone's like, Sarah's going to win this. Sarah's like running away with it. And then they just drop like flies in the night before finale. And I'm over it. I'm over it because it's such like a long game tease that gives me little aneurysms every season. And
if it makes you feel any better, mine just drop like flies, and then I have one that I hold on to.
That's how I do too.
In fact, that's not even the case for the traders because they literally dropped like flies.
So here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's Trader, Survivor, Big Brother, what it is, right? I keep all my people for at least the first half. Abigail drops like 90% of her roster, and then her one dingleberry hanging on wins the whole thing.
Not dingleberry.
I'm dying. But let's be real. Like, seriously, I'd say most of the drafts we've done that Sarah and I have done together, like, she's dominated, and we'll come into the pod and it's like Abby's getting ruined in the draft. She's just
I will say this though. I will say this, that my guts and my feelings, and if you go back and watch all of our drafts and like my predictions about people and the kind of games that are almost like, I'm almost a perfect record there. Like, I'm almost always on the nose.
So with that, who do you want?
I don't know. Okay, listen.
Someone.
I'm so stressed right now. All right, listen. All right, I'm going to go because I'm just tired of losing. But I feel like this is also a risky pick. But I feel like I've been influenced by the Rob Has a Podcast team. And so, because this was a hard no. And then I listened to RHAP and I was like, okay. So I'm going to go with Shaheen. And because my Mike Bloom interview was like a hard no.
My Mike Bloom one was a 50-50. So I feel you because there were red flags, but there's lots of good points.
I also tried. There's so many good points. My good points are that the RHAP brought up some good points about like his energy, his athleticism, challenges, but he's not too threatening in the way that people are gonna like immediately want him out. Like, he's not going to be a Kyle and win every comp, but he's going to do well enough to keep, be an asset. So I do see that point. He is very likable, very charismatic. He's not bad to look at. Let's be honest.
Not at all.
I'll tell you guys something later.
And then
noted.
Listen. Oh, okay. So, and he's not bad to look at, but then also, this is kind of a cheat, but just watching the trailers and the clips and stuff that have come out, I'm like, he's gonna be around a minute. So
I think the trailers bode him well, or he bodes well.
Very.
Whatever the wording would be.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a couple thoughts around kind of a very like a specific kind of portion of his personality. And so he's a former lawyer, and he was also on a debate team and like learned a lot from debate. But his kryptonite that he said was that he considers himself to be a quote unquote logic bully. Mm-hmm. That was where he fell a little in my list, but I really still like that pick for you, Sarah, because I think also he was an alternate for Survivor 46, and a lot of people on Survivor 46 had a lot of thoughts about him, both good and bad, when they got to see him, and they were like, some people were really excited, and some people were like, no way. So I'm curious to see how that pans out with this cast.
Yeah, on like going back to the debate thing, this is just like a personal kind of take. As someone who has been in the debate world whenever I was younger, those people either come off as really smart and kind or really smart and somewhat almost condescending a little bit. So it's going to just depend on in the long game, or like the longer he's there, how much he keeps that like kind of together. You know what I mean?
He's lucky it's not 30.
I was in speech and debate. I was in speech and debate 4 years running and went to state every single year. So
aren't you special? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I don't know which one.
That's hard to do.
It's very hard to do. I don't know which category of those two people Nicolette described I fit into, but
you're not condescending at all, I promise.
Okay. I do have a soft spot for my speech and debate nerds.
Allie, we haven't heard much from you on this. Tell
us. He was. Remember how I said Stephanie was number one on my hell no list?
Oh no.
You know what? You guys are making it actually harder for me as my next pick is approaching, because it's like, okay, there's still a solid at least 2 that I have like stars next to. And so it's gonna make it, because remember I told you there was 3 I had as number 2. So like they're still here. Like I need somebody to take one to make it easier for me. But no,
I want to test a scientific theory for our next draft, by the way. Our next draft, when I make my list, I want to make an Allie's pick prediction list because it's always my nose.
No, but in fairness, like a lot of times, like there are a lot of times that you and Sammy are together and then Abby and I are together.
Yes.
We definitely all have our moments all over the place. Like when Sammy picked Boston Rob, I think all of us collectively were like, sir. But you know, but no, about your pick though, the debate thing. It was the debate for me. Yeah. I didn't get a vibe from him. Like when Nicolette was saying it can go one or two ways. I didn't get the vibe from him that it was going to go the good way. Like I saw the clip of him like reading the poem that he wrote. What did he write? His mom.
Yeah.
He wrote her like a, hey, what was it?
I don't even remember. I just
he
remember
wrote something. It was like Survivor related. Was it like a clue? He wrote it as if it was like a clue or something. And it was just giving like, I do too much, you know? Yeah. But if you like him, I love him. You know?
He's a 50-50 person. I'm excited to see how he plays out because I think that could be a really strong pick. But
yeah. All right,
I think
Sammy.
we all pick really risky people to start.
Yeah, none of us are going after the people that are like, this guy's going to be a comp beast. Like,
and so Lucas is saying that Shaheen is one of his favorites that he's seen throughout everything. And that's, I think that's kind of awesome. It seems to really be that he's going to be polarizing for people. And that's why I'm excited to see how that goes because, you know, even no matter how that goes, it tends to be good entertainment and he seems like he's going to be good. So that's all I care about. All right, we are on to Nicolette's third pick, technically Sammy's. Who does Sammy have next and why?
Sammy's next pick, and I just want to say he's been able to get all of his top 3 so far, which makes me feel excellent as a proxy stand-in here. So his next pick is Chrissy, and he said the reason for that pick is because she's a super awesome firewoman, which I agree. I think that this is a really strong pick. Not only is she in the fire realm, but also, you know, having like the mom kind of character, personality, age, whatever. My only like drawback from her was one of her answers about like the pet peeves or whatever. It was something about like cleanliness or whatever. And I think that there's a good chance she could be one of those people that like complains about people at like not pitching in enough or, you know, bringing that kind of mom energy instead of the like nurturing mom energy, if that makes sense. I don't know.
One of the notes what you're saying is like you're saying Sue vibes sans face dirt. Got it.
Yes. That's actually exactly who I was picturing in my head.
Stop.
So Sammy with the power move here by taking both firefighters because that's actually huge for his draft, truly. Because...
Yeah, and also let's not negate the fact that she's from the south side of Chicago.
Yup.
So like, not only is she a firefighter, she's a firefighter. Like,
yeah. So
Chicago.
She's putting them out. Like,
one of the red flags I wrote about or that I brought up was that. So it was kind of similar to what Nicolette brought up. She also doesn't like people who practice puzzles before the season. So I'm not saying that like she's going to then go target those people, but it's just kind of like, will that personality start seeping into how she interacts with her tribe? So that was one of the reasons I had her further up with who I have remaining, but she was in the middle for my general list. I mean, she says her superpower is connecting with people, and that's 0% surprising to me. It just depends on how these kinds of tiny little personality traits will translate on her tribe, in my opinion.
I think also like talking about the puzzle thing, it also is like how much is she preparing, like mentally, physically, whatever, if she sees that as like a negative thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also like, is she going to be prepared for these puzzles? Because like,
Right.
it's not necessarily a bad thing to practice similar types of puzzles. You don't have to. I know she's probably talking about people like Evie and Carson, who like literally like were like, I did all the puzzles that I know that exist. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I'm not judging.
I mean,
her
my
for feeling
immediate turn off
frustrated.
and red flag, like I was vibing. I was vibing with Chrissy. I was listening to her interviews on my way into work, and I remember exactly where I was. Like I was vibing. And then she came in with like, I don't think super fans should be on the show.
Huh? I definitely missed that because we can only, there's so many interviews that out, so I must have missed
Did
that.
she say that?
Yeah.
G-bus Christ.
Surprised they even cast her. I mean, seriously, Jeff Probst, he is like all about a super fan, so I'm just kind of like, oh, that's an interesting choice.
It's interesting that she feels that
It's like
way.
that's like something that like, oh, should I say it? That's like something that like Russell Hantz would have said, like
100%. Even though he definitely would have been a total hypocrite because he would have just turned around and been like, but yeah,
It
I
was
watched
in her
all the
same breath
seasons.
on the Mike
Yeah.
Bloom interview where she's talking about the pre-practicing puzzles and that the super fans, she feels like her hot take is that they don't do anything for the show and they don't do well.
I read the interviews for Mike Bloom, so that's probably where I missed out on that because I'm just a speed reader, and speed reading I'm not the best at sometimes.
I tried just reading last year, the season before, it might have been 46, and then I realized that I was missing out on vibes from hearing cadence and voice and stuff, so I made a point to even like on my drive to and from work, like pulling up the playlist of the Mike Bloom interviews and Bluetoothing it to my car and just so I could hear like the voice, and yeah, that was in that one.
Yeah. I think that this is a great pick for how deep we are into this draft. And especially because I think we're gonna have to start weeding through the people that we're not so thrilled to draft. And before we even get to that point, any Survivor player from this season that is watching, take this as we are just going off of vibes from you. I say this because immediately after we posted our last one, a certain Survivor player from that exact season was the very first person to comment, and it was like a wow moment.
I have no problem saying this. We're not breaking any rules saying this.
We're not.
But Rome was our second to last pick.
Yeah,
and we all knew the chaotic energy and the chaotic
to
vibes.
me, he wasn't last because I mean, Abby was indifferent, and I was like, "Let's go for Rome." And she was like, "Sure, why not?" Like,
but it was between Rome and Genevieve, which is the contrast there. But then Rome being our very first comment, saying like, "Thank you for not picking me last." I was like, "Oh." But I will say that the following week I met him at the Bryson Wynn Survivor watch party, and he was lovely. He was just same energy, very charismatic, and he was just, once he realized who I was, and I'm like, yeah, we just did the draw, and he's like, oh my gosh, yeah, and then it clicked for him. He was lovely. He gave me just enough crap to be fun. And that's cool, though. He was a good sport about it. So we say this like we are armchair players here. So like I'm in the comfort of an air conditioned room, and we'll always stay this way. So you already are starting at a mad level of respect just going on this show.
Seriously. And I just wanted to throw that little caveat out there because genuinely because of Rome. So like, it's not anything that was bad. Like, it's not that bad that Rome caught it. I just want, if players catch this is solely off.
Well, they don't know us from who are these chicks, So yeah.
True. Okay. So any other thoughts
Allie.
on Chrissy before we go to Allie? I think we're pretty much done with Chrissy at this point.
Yeah. So I shoot, you guys didn't take either of my last two that I had on my list for number 2. So I'm torn between the person that I feel I resonate with, and the person that I think has a good shot. So I think I'm going to go with the person I think has a good shot because I've done 2 off the walls. So I'm going to go with Bianca.
I like that. Tell me why.
That was the one I was struggling with.
Well, I'm glad I picked her then because, okay, so there are a few things. She's a PR consultant, and I think that's going to be wildly useful. She's from New Jersey, and we have a good number of people. I don't know, this is just vibes, but we have a good number of people. Like Suri Fields is from New Jersey. Like we have a good number of people that came out of New Jersey. I'm sorry?
Michelle from from Colorado.
I could literally probably on 2 hands. It would take 2 hands to count the number of people we've had that were pretty good from New Jersey. And speaking of Michelle, that is like one of the people. Let me find it. She listed like 3 different people, and Michelle was one of the ones that she feels like she resonates with. Marianne, Dee, Kenzie, and Michelle.
I see.
That's who she said, and I see all of those. She also, one of my favorite things about her is that she went to like a roller coaster camp when she was a kid, and she like is a self-proclaimed like not scared of anything, just like daredevil. Like she will take the risk. She's not afraid to take the risk. And I think in a game like Survivor, think about people like Boston Rob. That's all he ever did was do whatever was risky, and it always panned out for him. I don't know that her story arc yet. I have seen one that's like, oh, this is a winning story arc or anything like that. But I don't think we really felt like we got a winning story arc from Genevieve or really even from Rachel in the preseasons. So I think this is a good choice for me, and I'm glad that I got her. So, also, I don't know that she's going to win competitions. I don't know that she's going to be able to win immunity, but I think that the tribe that she's on is going to do okay initially. And I also think that she's going to be able to align herself well. She's going to find a good spot and a good alliance. So those are my thoughts.
I have no notes. Those are all my thoughts. So I will just fully.
You are me. I am you.
Yeah.
I actually truly have no notes.
Sammy said he couldn't really get a good read on her. I would definitely agree. I feel like a lot of her answers that she gave were interesting, like just as like getting to know her, but as far as gameplay or how I think she's going to move, it wasn't really giving much. But I agree with what you said, Allie, that like she just has a fun and interesting personality, so she's probably going to be able to align well just based off of that. But I'm just not sure that we'll see like any. I just don't know that. I just don't get like strong player vibes necessarily.
I got strong player vibes. She was the one I was debating on. Like I was vibing really hard with her from the jump, and none of her answers. That's actually a good point. So Lucas says someone on Blue Sky said Caroline vibes from last season.
Perfect. Yeah. That's who I forgot to say that. That was one of the people that I was thinking of when I saw her.
Yeah. And Caroline did very, very well. So I feel like here for it. I feel like she's definitely making post-merge. So,
and lastly, I'll just admit that I have fun with my drafts now because I suck at them. So now I just pick, like, I think I said this in the beginning, but I just pick who I want now because something else I struggle with is like when I'm watching TV, if someone that's not on my draft, like let's say it's on Abby's draft picks, okay? And I'm like, oh, I really like this person. And then I feel obligated to root for my own drafts.
I do the same thing. You're so
And so then I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. Like, let me just do the people that I think I'm going to end up rooting for. Like Teeny, that was, I knew there was no way I wasn't going to be rooting for Teeny. Like Star, there's no way I'm not going to root for Star. Like low-key, I was rooting for Rome at some point because I just love the chaos. So.
I'm not going to lie. I did not root for Rome nearly as much as I think you did. I think it was pretty much after episode 1 we were forced to pick, or if it was 2 or 1, I can't remember. But we were forced to kind of be like Saul or Rome, and I went Saul because I was pissed that I let Saul get away in the draft because I can't remember, but somebody picked him right before I was going to, and I had waited on my last round, and I was like, damn it. So, but I feel you. It's really easy to get connected to these people when you draft them, right? Get such emotional.
I think it was me. I think I had Saul.
I'm pretty sure you did. And I'm pretty sure I was pissed at you for that because that was right before me. And that was
like, I picked Saul and then I made you get Rome. You're like, screw it. Get rid of Saul. Get rid of Rome.
Oh, I love it. Anything else that we want to comment on before we move on to round 4?
Nope.
Cool. Give me 1 sec to just peek over my shoulder. I'm dog sitting. If anybody sees me turning around, I'm not looking at anything random. I'm making sure that the dog is alive. So we're good. We'll move on to round 4. So this is going to be the final solo pick round. So we will all get one more solo pick. After this, Sarah and Nicolette will combine to pick one of the final 2 players. And then Allie and I will get stuck with whoever is left. Reason that it's that order is Allie and I got to pick first last season. They didn't. It was like a coin toss or something. So every season we'll just go back and forth at this point. Unless they decide to cast more people and go back to 20 people. Wouldn't that be nice?
Maybe we'll find out at Survivor 50, I guess. Right?
Maybe we could stop doing 3 tribes. I don't know. Anyways, it's a conversation for a different day. All right. I kind of actually hate that my pick's next because I have somebody who I really want to take, but I kind of want to go. And I know that like people can tell me, I know it's a little arbitrary, but I have 2 women already. I almost want to go like 50-50 and kind of try and balance, but like one of the people that I want to pick, I really like. But I really like the male person that I would go with too.
I don't know if you guys can hear, but my dog is snoring over there.
I can't.
Hardcore.
No judgment. That's
Rumpelstiltskin over here. Like, just...
right.
Well, both of the people that I have left are guys, so I feel that you're picking one of my people.
I will tell you when whichever person comes up. I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna go with Camilla. Ooh. I know Camilla is a risky pick, but like she mentioned in her interviews, she totally gives me Erica vibes from Survivor 41. And there's so much super fan passion in her. I would just feel weird. I don't know. It's not even that I feel weird not picking her. And when we come up to the other person, I'll let you guys know, because that was a really hard decision. But so a couple notes that I took. I liked that she doesn't subscribe to the Tribe Strong reality. Jesus, let me get a sentence out without stumbling over a word. She doesn't subscribe to the Tribe Strong mentality. I can understand a little bit because she does not necessarily come off as like the person that would be picked if they were going for Tribe Strong. But I really am. I'm big on not going Tribe Strong when it comes to long-term gameplay. So that was one of the big reasons I picked. I don't necessarily know if that's going to bode well for her. I think I'm just going off of kind of vibing with some of the things she said. Her superpower being underestimated kind of fell flat for me. Her kryptonite impatience was a little concerning to me, but I don't know. There's just something about, especially like the way she talks in her interviews. She's so animated. I just don't know. I feel like hopefully that connects with her tribe mates, but I know that's a really, really risky pick. But I really like her and I'm rooting for her to live out her dream. And I think that's part of why I'm going with her, but pros, cons, lay them on me. Nobody, okay.
I didn't have her on my list. I also didn't have her on my bottoms list. So I shouldn't. I didn't have
I know what you mean. She wasn't at the bottom of your list. She wasn't at the bottom of your
list of 5 people that are at the bottom.
You're good.
She was just floating somewhere in the middle, and so I'm indifferent. I will say this: I do disagree with you about the Tribe Strong, because I do think when you're forced in a position with 3 tribes and they have only 6 people, if you just so happen to make 6 people go to the merge altogether, or 5, or even 4,
right?
You got to vote as a block at least for a couple more weeks, but we can talk about that another time.
But I think maybe my argument for that back is that, like, if you are going to need somebody to go it like such a strong group, would you want somebody who is not going to want Tribe Strong? Because they don't necessarily, because Oh, Jesus.
I mean,
you want to know what I
I would just
really
like them to go back to
misunderstood there?
2 tribes
Do you
personally.
really actually
and
want to
then-
know what? So I just screwed myself out of a pick. So, and I don't mean that. Let me rephrase that because that's not what I mean to Camilla. What I based my decision off of was I misunderstood, and I don't know how I did because I've literally watched the show for 48 seasons. I totally just read that backwards. So I actually agree with you, Allie. And I'm actually gonna totally.
Oh,
walk
did
back.
you misinterpret what she was saying?
I did, and that's actually
Oh.
so. But so I also think that that might not necessarily work poorly for her game wise. I don't necessarily agree with the strategy, but I think that
I
when
think if
you
she
do
goes
play,
rogue, if she decides to be the only one in her tribe to go rogue after merge, probably not great, you know?
But so my thing is, if you need, like, you kind of do need tribe strong to some degree for, 3 tribes versus 2 tribes, right? Because 2 tribes is a
Yes.
much more so.
Right.
But I understand why people don't want to subscribe to that mentality, and that was where I was coming from originally.
Oh,
However,
I
I
see.
do agree really with Allie, and that was what I was trying to say is I just like that she stood on business, and she was literally just like, "This is how I feel. I'm going to have it play out in my game." And if she is confident in that, that was really where I was coming from. So I will walk that back. When we get to the person that I was going to pick, we'll talk about it a little more, but that's a little bit of the vibe. So this pick reminds me of how I felt when I picked Gabe and y'all were like, what? So I think I'm just having a very similar reaction. I will shut up. I want to hear what
I just didn't
Nicolette
have
and Sarah
anything.
say.
I just didn't, nothing stood out other than like, yeah, I put yes next to her. Like, yep, I would take her. I would vote, like, she's a yes. I didn't put like my little symbols for like fight for her or whatever, but like she was a yes. I would like to, like, I vibed with her for sure.
Making me feel a little bit better about that pick. Whatever. Now, Nicolette, what are you thinking?
Camilla wasn't on Sammy's list. I think I kind of agree with Sarah where it was like just not really anything stuck out necessarily, but I think she's gonna be fun and enjoyable to watch as a super fan, or just someone that's fun to cheer for on the show, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yes, for sure.
All right, speaking of Sarah, let's go to your last pick of this solo round. Who are you going with and why?
Okay. It's
This is
either
gonna be
a
a tough
chaos
round.
pick. I'm either going
you
a
say
chaos
chaos?
pick or I'm going. What is
I need to know who that is. I'm excited.
I love, just side note while she's thinking, I do love that we are all like not even picking each other's. It just shows how different we were on this one. Like the last one, I feel like we were like, oh, dang it, like on every other person, especially me and Abigail. Like,
I think that's a testament to casting. And I mean, also last season was good casting in some ways because we were all so passionate about certain people. But I think that it varies season to season. It doesn't mean that everybody has to react the same way and therefore it's a good cast, you know?
Yeah,
I think
for
actually
sure.
because we all see such great differences in all of these players, I think it could actually bode really well for the season. You're biting your nails over there. You got to make a pick.
Oh,
Hey!
You took my finance manager.
Heck, bro.
That
right.
was the other person I was debating on my last one, but okay.
Sarah just picked Kevin. Tell us why.
And it came down to like vibes that like I was getting maybe vibes from him. It wasn't a no like my other one that I almost picked, even though I wrote no next to them, because now I'm starting to like overanalyze and overthink my stuff.
Nope. He's a great pick. He's a great pick. Don't overanalyze.
Yeah, but he was like okay, Kevin. Very personable, loved his answers, liked his interviews. He didn't at first with the Mike Bloom, he didn't stick out as like long term for me. However, the more I've seen, the more I think he's around for a while. Yeah, it's just, this is a vibes, this is a gut, he is a finance bro, but he doesn't come off too broy, which I hate that I have 3 guys and 1 girl. However, I'm kind of stacking my odds here because I do think a guy is winning this season. And why not it be Kevin? So that's kind of where I'm at.
I deleted all my notes. So one of the things I'm looking at as I'm here, one of the flags I raised was he's like, I'm not outdoorsy. And that just reminds me of like Survivor 45 when we had like 3 people quit because they didn't like the outdoors.
And they missed their vape.
That's gonna happen. I was just sitting there and I was like, don't know how I feel about that. That was one of the reasons he fell much farther on here. But I did like his superpower, and I'm reading actually fully from here where he says, I think I'll bring the socialness and characteristics of smiling, laughing, and charming. It's an interesting sentence to put together. But in general, I don't hate that. So I think he's an interesting character. I don't think I have much more than that. It's just I saw Tech Bro right away and I was like, I don't know how I feel. Because I don't know. Have we really had many Tech Bros?
No, but he's had multiple jobs. Like he's pivoted, and I think he had like an MBA. He has like multiple degrees and stuff.
Yes.
His current position is a finance manager, which is why I wanted him because we have the same freaking job title. And I was like, I have to have him. But then I kept passing him up because I was like, all right, I'll go with this other. All right, I'll go with this other. The other thing about him that I think, oh my God, I just lost my whole train of thought.
Oh no.
The other thing about him that I think Abigail would have liked, and I was gonna say it and I forgot. The other thing I saw about him that I think Abigail would have liked is that he really resonates with Yule, and he really wants to try and be like
that.
Yule.
You are correct.
So I knew you would be excited about Yule because I don't know you like Yule, but I know you like Yule. You know what I mean? Like
Yule is in my top 5. Potentially top 3, depending on if I just did the day.
He's gorgeous.
Winners of all
time. He's so great.
I love
I would
Yule.
eat him up for dinner. He's great.
Yes. So I think that's a great pick. I mean, I probably will say that about most of these, anyways. So it's hard to gauge.
It's a really good.
But I really do like the logic that you approach that with. I really do.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
What did Sammy have on his thoughts?
Yeah. You took Sammy's next pick for the first time, Sarah. So I fear there may be a smidge beef incoming.
So close to a
smidge beef incoming.
He'll be like, "Why I oughta."
Speaking of, who is his next pick? Unless you want to elaborate more.
No, he really didn't have much on him. Just that he seems funny. So that was maybe that was a vibes pick. So his next
that was the other thing is I was
though,
literally laughing out loud during his interview, and that was one of my.
I think just another strong like answer that he gave was something about like being flexible with people or something like that. I think that flexibility in these games is also always like a really strong quality to have or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
But Sammy's next pick is Mary.
All right. Love to hear more.
There are no other thoughts from Sammy as to why, but that is next on the list.
Which likely means he's going off of vibes. Knowing Sammy.
Do you have any thoughts, Nicolette? Just filling in?
I just think she has like a really interesting upbringing story that maybe seems like she's going to have a lot of good qualities that are going to make her a pretty decent player and really flexible, relatable with other people, not just social wise, but also just like the grit of Survivor itself. So I think it's actually like a pretty good pick that he's ending up with, honestly.
Yeah. I liked that her superpower and kryptonite that she could recognize was her strong social game. That she could understand that it was going to be a really, really important thing for her to capitalize on, but also something that she needs to be wary of. The other red flag I had was that she had, quote unquote, a hunger for control. But I don't think that necessarily can be a bad thing in this game. It was just one of the things where I was like, I don't know. Because also one of the very next things she said was that she is both chaotic and controlled. So I don't know how to feel about that. It's a lot of kind of mixed feelings for me there, but I think that could be a strong pick if she can really lean into shutting off the emotions like she wants in an ally.
Yeah, Mary, she does say she's a walking contradiction, so...
Mary gives a young version of Sue.
Really?
Yeah.
Mary's like that friend. Here's the thing. I identify with Mary. Like, I just feel like, she gives me feelings that like I am a liberal feminist. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm about it. But you have that friend, right? Like you have the same belief system. Whereas like I would protest. Well, Mary will burn a building down. You know what I'm saying? Like we like
Yes.
believe the same things. Yeah. So like I feel like Mary and I would align with how the game, like what the move needs to happen, who needs to be voted out. But her way of doing it would be so much more chaotic. Oh.
And
So that was where I was struggling with the chaos pick. And between her and Stephanie, I was like, oh, these are the like women wild cards to me.
I definitely got women wild cards from both. That's like perfect, actually, like phrasing for that. So I feel you.
And also the reason I say that she's giving young version of Sue is personality, but also she talked about how she backpacked for an entire year. And I'm like, so perfect. She might actually know how to contour with dirt.
Stop it. That's great.
There you go.
I'm
but
just
let's
saying,
notice. Can we
she's
just
used
notice?
to not showering potentially.
That's hilarious.
Hey, she has no thumbs in this picture, so points.
Oh,
She got points.
Valid.
No thumbs.
Did we
Her
check
toes
that,
are on
though?
top of the
Did we
sand
check
and
that
not
with-
dug in.
Hold on, wait. I'm checking with Rachel from last season because do we remember if she was thumbs out or thumbs in? I'm checking now. Boop, boop,
So
boop,
while you're
boop,
checking,
boop.
I just want to say this. I think
She was
go over
thumbs in. Oh no! Oh, okay.
I'm telling y'all.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Bryce
So
has
I
this
think
down to a science.
I think we have 3 people left, right?
And
At
yes,
this point.
and so the 3 people before
Thomas,
Allie
Kyle,
picked-
and David.
correct. So
Okay.
you
And
have
it's
the
my
last
pick.
before we go in here.
And I just need to say
okay.
this. The person I'm getting a person I want. However, the other 2 are on my no-fly list. So
and
the other 2,
unfortunately, we won't even get a chance.
I
We'll
want
just land it.
nothing to do with the other 2. So you all have at it because I want.
You're getting him anyway, boo.
Maybe one more so than the other. I'm really nervous about who we are about to get stuck with, Abigail. I think we're gonna get stuck with the exact person that I said in the group chat that I thought was going to be no one wanting. Okay, so
I think I know
taking,
exactly who you're talking about too. We will.
There's
see.
no way that anybody with
I
a
know we're getting
sane
stuck with
mind.
this person.
There is no one with a sane mind in this world that would have watched a single interview from this guy or even read his bio and would think, he would be great for my draft. Or
Anyway,
he's gonna win this game. anyways, okay.
So
So
you're good. Who are you picking? I want to know.
all right, so I am picking Thomas. And
Okay.
That was the person that I was in between him and Camilla. I just wanted to say.
okay, perfect. I figured at this
What a
point
great
it had to have
stash.
been Abby. If it wasn't, I was gonna be concerned. I vibes. I love his vibes. He is a super fan, so I would be remiss not to add a serious super fan to my list. I feel like my list is balanced now with macho versus femme. I also think I don't know that he has a story arc and he is showing his thumbs, but
Taco. That's not great, but besides that, I
What
liked
a great
Thomas.
stash.
Yeah, seriously, like
it's a
Thomas
can I
falling
say-
into
Makes
can I
me want to
say
go
what
watch.
Can I say what kind of stash this is? Am I allowed?
No, I think we all
Okay,
know,
never mind.
but
I
to
guess
me,
I-
it makes
I guess
me
I
want to
can't.
go watch Super Troopers.
Yes,
It
very.
makes me want to go watch
Schnozberries.
Orange is the New Black.
Anchorman.
I've watched both while dogs sitting. Schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
Yeah. Afternoon delight.
No, it's an afternoon delight mustache for sure. Like, respectfully. My couple thoughts. You know, I'm gonna bring up the red flags that I have with anybody.
Sure, go
one that
ahead.
I had, but I always so first of all, love that he loves people. He seems like a people person. So that was one of the things that really rose him high in my draft order. There were a couple things that knocked him down for me. One was when he said he was like, his kryptonite was also kind of loving people, because he said his jury management might not be the best. And I was like, oh, that's okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be bad at it either. I was just like, oh, if you want to admit that, I don't necessarily have to pick you. But I don't think that that necessarily bodes entirely poorly for you. The other thing that I had as a big red flag was he said he has a short temper and no patience for fools. And even in his interview, Mike Bloom was like, you're gonna have to deal with some foolishness on the island. What happens then? And he's like, oh, he had a pretty diplomatic answer, being like, I'll deal with it. I'll find blah, 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 like ways to deal with it. But that was just one of the things that when I was looking at him and Camilla, I was kind of back and forth between. And that was the deciding factor for me. But I still like the pick a lot, because I think that he's got a potentially strong social game. So, anything else? Sarah?
The only note from Sammy on Thomas is that he is not a fan of the arrogant display of thumbs in his cast photo.
Love that.
I did say I knew this would be risky when I saw his thumbs. So
There's that.
That's
My
so
thing
funny.
for him, that he does seem likable, and he's on
Totally.
a great tribe. So
yeah. Well, out of my 3 options, I think we can all mutually agree this was the best.
okay.
So
I'm
we are
pulling up
moving on.
Sammy's picks here.
But now we're stuck between a lawyer and a stunt double.
So we are
I'm
moving
pulling
on
up
to the final round.
Okay.
And sorry, no,
Okay.
please. So she's got Sammy's picks. Just to remind people how this is going to work, Sarah and Nicolette as a proxy for Sammy. But I would love to hear Nicolette's personal thoughts on this, to at least kind of weigh in on this decision, because it's probably going to have to play. Anyway, they will talk it out, and they are basically going to decide the final picks for us. They will they will take either Kyle or David, and whoever they don't pick, Allie and I are going to get stuck with. So with that, I have to go grab a dog thing really, really
Yep.
quick. But
You're good,
please,
'cause
debate,
I got
and I will
lots
be
to
right
say.
back. Go for it.
All right, Nicolette. Listen, not to steamroll here. Not to steamroll, but Sammy's not here. Bottom line.
I 100% agree with you.
And
You have
you
the
know
floor.
what? He won last year. So I just whatever. But listen, I see his list and I see which one's ranked higher than the other, but I want to trump it. And here's why. First of all, because once they're not ranked super high. 2, the person that's higher, that is not a reason. That is not a reason. That's giving me nothing. Okay, that's a nothing burger. So Sammy, I love you, but because Sammy and I also have a kind of a hive mind, Sammy and I share a brain when it comes to these things. I feel like if he were here, I would be able to say my statement and he would agree with
And
me.
sway
And for
him.
that reason, I really believe that we should
Wait.
picking-
Before you say it, could you tell us what Sammy wrote next to his to the 2 people? What are his
without
thoughts?
saying the names.
Yeah.
Without saying the names.
Yeah.
One of them, he says, looks like Chris Evans and not another teen movie. That's not a reason. That's nothing. Okay. And then the other, there's nothing next to it. So for those reasons, I feel like our last pick needs to be Kyle. And let me tell you why.
I'm shook.
Because he did have
Really?
David.
I'm
Slightly
shook that Sammy had David above Kyle. That's what I was shook
Dead.
about.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying shook over the
No,
Kyle.
I knew we were getting David, but I was
Here's
shook.
the thing.
I
Oh my
was
God.
nervous
Here's the
when she
thing.
started saying she was trumping Sammy's choice. I was like, oh, shoot.
Well,
we're
the
actually-
thing is, I didn't look at Sammy's things because I play with integrity, right? Like I have his list available to me, but I am drafting with integrity and I did not want to compromise and influence my decisions based on what his next picks would be. So I have not opened them or really looked at them until this moment. And immediately when I saw that, I was like, no. So
Do you
because
think? No,
here's the
go for it. No, sorry.
Kyle has one thing really going for him. Okay. I had Kyle likable. Like I had Kyle like not a bad pick. Points points for being an attorney who's going to lie about his profession because they always do well on these shows. So we have that as a strong case. I feel like David, on the other hand, is going to be around a while. It's going to happen. He's going to be around a minute. He's going to be a character. He's going to get a lot of screen time. He's not first boot. We typically save these last spots for our first boot energies. Neither one of these fellas are going to be first boot, but out of the two, I like Kyle. I would vibe with him, love to interview him, love to have him on the show. And he's an attorney, and we've all seen how well attorneys do on the island. So,
Sarah, you don't even have to defend that choice. Like, going into this, I was like, okay, we're getting David. But then when you started saying you were trumping Sammy's pick, I was like, oh crap, we're actually getting
I saw
Kyle.
it and I panicked immediately because I wanted to respect Sam's, because Sammy's not here. I was like, all right, whichever the last two he has higher, we'll go. That was what my mindset was. And then I opened it up and I was like,
immediately
no. So
yeah.
But Sammy's proxy, Nicolette, I would like to hear, because Sammy gave us nothing other than, Chris Evans, what your thoughts on.
Yeah, no, I was also real nervous, and I was sitting here being like, okay, if Sarah has strong opinions, I'm just going to go with what Sarah says, because I don't think that I can sit here and fight for us to choose David over Kyle, because I don't inherently feel that way. So I was like, if Sarah feels very strongly one way or the other, I'm just going to go along with it. And I apologize to Sammy.
We love you,
I'm
Sammy.
so sorry for that. But
I'm sorry to that man. I'm sorry to that man.
I'm sorry to that man. I literally was sitting here trying to think, like, as I'm seeing the list dwindle down, I'm like, what is my talking point going to be here to play this a certain way? Because this is kind of a wild one. Everything else I was pretty much in agreement with, but thank you for saying I'm just going to steamroll this, because I was like, yep, you go right on ahead. I saw where this was headed.
So it's official. Your choice is
official.
Kyle.
It is official.
Would you mind to show everyone? Would you mind to show everyone the picture of David?
So we could talk
Yes,
about.
So let's look at David, because it looks.
Now, Abby and I can talk about our lovely
poster.
Okay, so first of all, this man has not watched Survivor for decades. Decades. Has not watched for decades. Not trying to be a jackass. He's like, so pretty much the vibe I got was, I watched Survivor once, and then I remembered the show when I was an adult and decided, why the hell not? I might as well just do a thing. And just like kryptonite, his arrogance. He's like, I think it can also be an asset. Where? Please tell me where. But I will say,
where?
I say that, but I want to harken back to the Survivor 46 cast draft that Sarah and I did. That was the exact same reaction I had when I landed with Q. And I don't think that it necessarily is going to like totally ruin his game, but I don't think it's gonna help his game very much when it comes up. But I don't think that as much as like he's somebody I would, if I was on the island, would be like, first boot, adios. I don't know if that's how it's going to play out with his tribe, especially because his tribe is including Kyle. So the tribe, just to read it off because I have it in front of me, is David, Camilla, Kyle, Mitch, Charity, and Chrissy. Couldn't even tell you what the first boot is on there based on there. And I think there's so many opportunities for multiple people. So kind of interesting that our last two picks are on the exact same tribe.
Yeah. So this was the absolute last of last on my list. And he's giving. This is what he's giving for me. He's jumped from career to career, admittedly, and he's got his pilot's license, and he even says, like, I have a lot of hobbies, and like he's naming all these hobbies. They're showing him on jet skis and like all these crazy things. And it was just giving to me, like, I have no direction in life, but I'm also 39. It's giving the uncle it's giving the uncle from Napoleon Dynamite where he's like living in the dude that's like, yeah, like the karate.
The guy who lives in a van selling Tupperware. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, like I
saw
saw
that.
down by the river. Like he's just very like and then like you said, he hasn't watched Survivor in decades. He has truly no idea how to play new era Survivor. And I think he's actually doing himself a severe disservice that he's not even considering watching like 45 or watch 40 several just to throw out there the most recent season. Like watch 40. Like he's really doing himself a disservice not watching a new era season because he can't come in and play like it's Gabon. He can't come in and play like it's Pocahontas. Like he can't do that. It's not gonna work.
No. You could go into those seasons with very little prior knowledge and not say that you would automatically be fine, but you could at least have some level of success.
Sure.
Compared to how complex this game has gotten. Where it's like, do you
know what to look
out for?
Who was it that went and watched all of the tribal councils with no context?
I saw that. Could not tell you who it was. I do remember
so
seeing
there's
that.
someone, there was an interview, they said that they went, and I'm trying to remember who it was. They went, and I don't know, like the more I think about, the more I'm like, that's actually pretty brilliant. Because when you go to, okay, so someone out there said that they went and watched all the tribal councils with no context without watching the episodes. They also watched the competitions, but their reasoning, now that I'm thinking about it, is when you go to tribal council, us, the viewer, have context because we saw everything leading up to it. We saw the edit, we saw the things. But if you are playing it, you are going to tribal with no context. Like you're having to read people's reactions and how they behave before they vote and stuff. And I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know why I thought like, at first I thought it was him, but it's not him.
It might be Kevin. I'm checking on the article right now, but my Google search has led me to Kevin. Remind me again what the phrase is that I'm looking for so I can just do a quick search.
They watched all the tribal councils with no context, like only the tribal councils and only the competitions.
But I finally found David's many hobbies: flying, riding jet skis, diving,
Uncle
gaming.
Rico.
Uncle Rico, yeah.
I feel that.
Thank you for that. And playing board games. And I also this is the last thing I have to say about him. I would like to share a quote. I am compared to Jonathan Young a lot. And there are obvious similarities, but truthfully, I cannot think of a player that I would be like. Though, admittedly, I have not seen every season of Survivor.
Also, then how the frig does he know how Jonathan Young has played? What do you mean?
Perhaps that's a season he's watched. Of the 3 seasons he's watched, it was Jonathan Young.
The math just isn't mathing, personally. But I'm not saying that in a bad. Like, also, how did you randomly land on Survivor?
And who is comparing you to him a lot? He's like, he literally says it as if people walk up to him on the street and they're like, I think you play like Jonathan Young. Like,
definitely why. I think
again, Rico, this guy is Delulu, I think. But whatever.
Part of what
we're gonna have fun with this guy.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Is there anything else we want to talk about these picks before we go?
I am excited for this season. Again, I love being proven wrong. So when I say that to say this, that like going into last season, I was like, yes, like the whole cast. It's probably personal and it's probably like because of what's like going on in my real life. I'm not like feeling it preseason as much as I was for 47. But the more I see, like individually, I feel like these people are great. I'm just very curious to see how it all comes together and how the tribe dynamics are.
Sammy just texted all of us and wants to know if he got his first pick.
Text him back live.
I'm going to tell him no.
Text him back live. No, tell him
no.
No.
I'm going to tell him he got David. Let me do it.
Yeah, the David was his first pick. say Nicolette, like we misunderstood the instructions. We went from bottom up.
I'm just gonna say yes. Nicolette gave you David. And see what you were saying.
Yeah, you literally just be like, yeah, David's number one. While we wait for a potential Sammy response, I actually also wanted to just reiterate to everybody before we hop off who everybody is picked for their selections. So myself, I have selected Eva, Justin, Stephanie, Camilla, and if not technically selected, but I'm stuck with David. Just totally
Wait,
fine.
Sammy didn't even care much for David. What's one person that Sammy really just wasn't vibing with on his list?
What's on the last?
The last one is Thomas.
Okay.
Go with
Did he
Thomas.
have anything crazy written next to Thomas?
It was about the thumbs.
Yes, dude. Just
trying
No, wait.
I changed it to Thomas.
Wait.
I just sent it.
Oh shit.
Oh wait, why?
Yes, yeah. Just keep playing it off because
Okay.
we're thinking that she went from the bottom up, like that
Yeah,
was his
exactly.
pick order. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
So
play
he's
it
gonna be
off
like, what the heck? He's gonna text you immediately.
I'm ready for this.
What the hell happened?
So we just went through mine. While we wait for Sammy's response, I'm just going to fill some time real quick. I also did really want to go through these so everybody knows who we picked. So reiterating, and I'll read mine real fast again. So I had Eva, Justin, Stephanie, Camilla, and David. Sarah had Cedric, Sai, Shaheen. Is that how we're pronouncing it?
Shaheen?
I thought it
No,
was
wait. I wrote down the pronunciation. Shaheen.
Yeah, cool. I thought that, and I just wanted to make sure. Kevin and Kyle, the two Ks. Sammy has Charity, Joe, Chrissy, Mary, and Kyle. And Allie has Star, Mitch, Bianca, Thomas, and David. In general, I find Allie's the most interesting because I feel like it's like all over the place. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually think that kind of gives her
Diverse.
I think it gives her a broad reach for who could potentially win, and for respectfully for someone who has to go fourth in the draft. That's a really good draft list. I'm impressed.
What my draft looked like last year. I picked Jonathan. Which admittedly I knew. I said this is either going to be winning the entire game or going home week one. And that was it. John Lovett, you're winning or you're going home. One of those two is happening. And then I had Saul, of course, Teeny, and I can't remember who my other one was. But I went off of some were vibes and somewhere I think Saul was a solid, you might win this game kind of pick.
I'm still sad. Sammy's reaction is a laughing emoji. Stop it. LMAO. Oh boy.
I can't wait till he watches this.
Are we just going to force him to watch this before he send him his picks?
I don't know. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. My dirty work is done.
Allie's like, I have manipulated enough for the night. This is fun. Oh my god. I'm really enjoying it so much. But we are probably going to head out for the night. We will obviously be back to talk about all of our thoughts for this season. And when we come back, we will definitely have Sammy's reaction to his true draft list.
Nicolette, you were an incredible proxy.
Yes, thank you so much. It has been so enjoyable, and we
loved having you on the show.
Yes, always.
Thank you. It was so fun.
So much. Any other thoughts you want to share before we head out?
No, come see us in Boston at the Banshee Bar on, I'm going to mispronounce
Dorchester Avenue in Dorchester.
Tomorrow.
Dorchester Avenue in Boston to come watch the Survivor premiere with us. Abigail and I will be there, and we hope we can have a drink with you.
Yeah, it'd be super
So
fun.
fun.
Yeah. But with that wraps up this episode of Wicked Unscripted. So if you like what you hear, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, do all the fun things, click all the buttons. We really appreciate your support of our podcast. I'm getting there, Duggo. One moment. We are
I
also
just need to say something. This is a really needy dog. I don't is this a puppy?
No, she's 10. She's just
she's a little needy. I just have to throw that out there. No offense to the dog's
I get
owner.
it.
She is
Vader
insistent on going
is so
in and out. He's like, I have to be in, I have to be out, I have to be in, I have to be out. It's like, oh my God, it's every 15 minutes.
So much.
So if you see
so
me
much.
get up in this episode, apologies. And I can already hear her crying outside. That's fun. But we are regularly posting updates on all of our TikTok accounts. So please make sure that you are following us. We are going to be updating throughout the season, and we're going to be talking about our draft picks throughout the season. So if you want to follow us, make sure that you do so. If you want to ask a question, share your thoughts, or leave us a tip, email the podcast at wickedunscriptedpod, P-O-D, @gmail.com for more. That's wickedunscriptedpod, P-O-D, @gmail.com. We're always looking for fresh and diverse voices to join the conversation. And with that, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time, and enjoy Survivor 48. Bye.
Night.